We often joke on Full Boost about the 2K Barra, but today we might actually be testing out that theory. Now, Jordan, I notice you got a new t-shirt on there. We have sold a ton of stickers of these, and a lot of people have asked us to put it on a shirt, so they're available in our shop in a bunch of different colours.
For once, different colours.
Get on.
And speaking of Barra fans, whip this up. Also, this is also available in a t-shirt, but you know, the old running 8s for 2K joke. Well, apparently to some it's not a joke, it's dead serious. Dead serious. That's one for the toolbox.
We often film a lot of high-end engines at Dandy Engines, but the majority of them are V8s, Frank. Today we've got something a little bit different. Do you want to give us a little bit of background info on this one?
Yeah, well, we thought we'd touch base with the old Australian six-cylinder Barra.
Yeah.
You know, we hear about it so much, and
Yeah.
I've never really done much with it. It's pretty much one of my second ones that I wanted to play with, and thanks to Corey Jackson, one of our customers, that he bought one in and it took off from there.
Yeah. Now you guys obviously, you do a lot of non-V8 engines. You know, you do...
Yeah, six cylinders, grey motors, 202s.
I've seen billet JZ engines here.
We do a 2J for Nathan Hedgerson. It's gone 620.
Now, it came to you actually as a built engine, didn't it?
Correct,
Can you give us a bit of background?
Yeah, I can't take all the credit for it, but basically it came as a complete engine where our customer bought it and said, right, it's been sitting around for a while, can you go over it? Once we opened it up, nothing wrong with what was inside, but we just thought we've already had an engine on the dyno that we did some R&D work with.
That's a Barra engine, yeah?
That's a Barra engine, correct. And that was my own Barra engine. So I wanted an engine that I could lean on and not have to worry about, you know, telling a customer, hey, I'm going to lean it right out until it burns a piston.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just went back to using the same camshafts that we had in that engine, which Crow Cams did some work with us on those. So, and we came up with something that worked really good. And first time we went on the dyno with our mule engine, our R&D engine, we made 1650 straight away.
Yeah.
But I wanted to push the limits of knowing where to dial the dyno in, so it simulates what it's doing at the track.
And that engine was obviously running a lot smaller turbocharger than this too, wasn't it?
We were just playing around with an 88.
Yeah. So this one's obviously, you can see she's pretty big. That's a 102.
102. Yeah, it's a precision 102 with a T6 flange housing.
Okay. We've obviously got a Plasma Man intercooler. Tell us a bit about the internals. Like it's obviously got a billet crank.
It's got like a billet spool crank, billet spool rods.
Are they steel rods, yeah?
Steel, from memory. I've done a few now, so I just got to remember. It's an I-beam rod. It's got special piston services which are made in Australia.
Made in Australia, made in Melbourne.
Here in Dandenong, just down the road. Let me tell you, I mean, they can handle the power nicely. It was all about just running through our machine work that we do, that we know works on the 3,500 horsepower stuff that we do. So, you know, we started off by just going right through the tunnels. Main tunnel, making sure it's straight, making sure the steel caps are being line bored, line honed. For me, it's all about making the engine mechanically correct before we can start throwing power at it.
What about upstairs? A lot of people tend to run stock Barra heads because look, they are pretty good. Yeah. But at this power level, obviously you've done a bit more than that.
Well, we wanted to see how far we could go. So there's no point restricting the cylinder head or having the restriction right where it counts. So luckily the head came as a Ram cylinder head from New South Wales where they run a CNC program through it and they do a great job. You know, like I'm an engine builder, I should be promoting outporting, but it was a beautiful cylinder head to start off with. They had 1 mil oversized valves. We've beefed up the spring pressures to what we feel the camshafts need. You know, it was amazing for me because I'm so used to the old school V8 stuff.
Yeah.
If I make 5 runs on a dyno, I need to pull the valve covers off and check the lash. We must have done about 15 runs, and I never pulled the cover once.
The cover never came off once.
You know, so for me, they're a pretty stout little engine.
And that's got their solid camshafts, aren't they?
It's got solid camshafts, and it's got, we blocked out the VVT, and we just put like a vernier gear on the front. Our plan was to, if we had time, excuse me, is to get to a level of power and then play around with the camshafts and see what the cam timing can do.
And this one was always going to run methanol fuel.
I like methanol fuel because we're going to go to a racetrack and we're going to really extract everything out of it. Steve Petty from Proline, you know, he's one of the best tuners in the world, and he taught me how to read plugs. So I felt like it was easier to start off with methanol. Once I get my baseline on methanol and we've pushed methanol and we know the engine can survive and blah, 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 then I'd like to go on E85 and see how hard we can push E85.
Yeah.
But I need to find my ground first. I can't dive straight into E85 because I haven't done much with E85.
A big turbo, obviously this was making like, we'll show some runs in a minute, but this was making like 1,000 horsepower on like 1 bar of boost.
Yeah, these turbos don't even come alive until 2 bar of boost.
You're also running the fuel complete, obviously you can see their complete FuelTech system.
We had this set up for it, yeah. I mean, this engine's going to run FuelTech. It's already got, you know, that's his ECU. But we already had this set up for our mule engine, R&D engine, so it was easy just to plug it all in and go.
But this one's actually, sorry to interrupt you, this one's actually running the new FT, the FuelTech injectors.
Yeah, Corey's a bit of an innovator. When something comes out, Corey jumps on it and goes, I want to be the first. We had just landed these in a set of injectors and he was like, I'll buy them, put them on and let's try it. And it ran good. You know, we've never had any dramas with the other ones from Atomizer. It's just Corey would like to try the FuelTech ones, and we gave them a shot and yeah, they held up good.
Yeah, one set of injectors.
Well, look, it takes away, we were going to do 12 injectors, and I always like to tell the customers, if you have a drama with one injector going off, that cylinder's going to lean out and you don't feel it. It's making so much power. You're going to keep your foot into it until it torches the head and the block and burns everything up. So the good thing is we go back to a single set of injectors. If it does lose an injector or something happens, it just shuts off one hole and it saves the engine. We had a bit of a play around with fuel systems as well. This is the beauty of playing around on the engine dyno. We got fine control over what the engine's doing. We got to start off with one fuel pump that was rated for, you know, 2,000 supposedly.
Yeah, you were a bit apprehensive before we started that would be enough.
Only because I've seen it before, and we got to prove it on the dyno. As soon as we got to like 1750, 1780 to 1800, it was like, yeah, we're at a fuel pump.
So obviously the engine did really well. It was we were seeing, I think it was 25 to 30 horsepower per PSI, and that wasn't even falling off. Like it wasn't diminishing returns. It was just
it kept climbing
like that. But at 45 pounds, we had a little bit of a hiccup.
Well, like I said, I'm still new to these engines. I tried to treat the engine as far as the oiling system went, just like we do on our XW, which is a wet sump. All the oil stays in the sump, and we're pulling it out externally through an oil pump at the front, and then we're pumping it through a filter back into the engine. What I like about the external pump is it allows me to control the oil pressure, and we have a lot of volume through a -16 line, which is oh, it's bigger than 5/8. It's bigger than, what's in millimeters? I don't know what it is. It's the size. It's the size of a radiator hose. But unfortunately, somewhere along the line, we're getting that much oil up top that I sucked the sump dry a couple of times in some of those high runs, and so that's something I have to work on. Unfortunately, we hurt one of the big end bearings, so we called it a day early.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And it's part of learning. I mean, I'd like to sit here and say I'm the best engine builder and I've prevented all that from happening, but part of the agreement was that if I put it on the engine dyno, it gives me a chance to see what the motor's going to do, where the weak points are, where the areas that maybe I haven't paid enough attention to need to be addressed before Corey puts it in the car and goes down a quarter mile. At least we'll have all that sorted out.
Yeah, because you were telling me at the start of the day you can put 70 pounds in this, Frank.
I was happy to go. Look, the map sensor built in the FuelTech is 87 psi. If it had compression, if all the bearings stay in the engine and the crankshaft doesn't fall out the bottom, I would go to 87 psi. I thought that if you could tape that screen going to 87
pounds,
I'm sure it will make a pretty cool video.
Yeah.
We calculated that each time we made a pull, you were there, we calculated it was going to make, I think for every 5 pounds, I think we're going to make 130 odd horsepower.
Yeah, it was about 135 horsepower for 5 pairs.
So, you called it before we made a pull and bang, the number came up, So the dyno can't lie. At the end of the day, it's a stretch, it's a device, it's a measuring tool. Doesn't matter if people are making more at the hubs or what. At the moment, all we wanted to do was just see what the engine was doing and try and control the environment in case something did occur, you don't lose a whole engine. So it's not the highest power. It's not about that. We made what we made, and the best part is we learned a bunch of stuff.
This is actually going into an FG Falcon. I wouldn't call it the typical FG street.
No, it's enhanced.
It's a very, very nice bit of gear. But so the next time, we might actually have this on the hub dyno.
I think the best thing to do, I've got a baseline tune up for the injectors, the timing, and where the camshafts are. So now I think we just got to fix the oiling issue, which we pretty much know what it is. So we're just going to put it to the test, put it in the car, let's go on the hub dyno and see what it does with the transmission converter and the rest of the gear. And then if everything goes well there, we'll keep creeping it up until we see what we've got to see, We want to share with everyone, like, with a factory block, factory head, how far can we go? Yeah,
and I know you've got a few other engines on the go at the moment, so these things are only getting more popular by the day, aren't
they? They're an awesome piece of gear, and so many people like Plasma Man, Tunnel Vision, 6Boost, make so many easy bolt-ons for these things. It's almost silly not to do it.
Yeah.
So
we might see one in the XW one day.
The old mule engine's looking pretty good at the moment. I'll tell you, I thought about it. I just don't know if I'm going to be liked or disliked after it, but it would be interesting to see.